Welcome to Happy Homes and Gardens. I'm your host. My name is Daphne Royse. I am a rosé broker, architecture, and interior designer. Who doesn't love wine? It is the popular beverages at a dinner table with friends and families. Share a Splash started his business in 2006. Yoav is the founder of Share a Splash, and he's going to share his success stories. They supply wines from New Zealand, Portugal, Napa Valley, and also Sonoma County to restaurants and stores in our neighborhoods. His entrepreneur dreams never stop. Welcome, Yoav.
Thank you. Good day. Good to be here.
Yes.
In California. Beautiful weather, as always, almost always.
Yes, that's a typical California in the springtime.
Yes, yeah, it's gorgeous. Blue sky and the sun is shining. We had some rain, which is good for the vineyards.
Tell us about you and how did you start a wine business?
So I grew up actually in Israel. I wasn't born in California. Probably hear it from my accent. I wasn't born here. But I came here for the first time when I was 14 years old, and I was wowed by California, and I loved everything about it. The ocean, the sun, just the food, the fruit, the vegetables, and everything about it. And I said, one day I'll be back. And about 20 years ago, my wife and I got accepted to schools here in the Bay Area, Stanford and Berkeley, and we moved here 20 years ago. And I went to business school here, and I decided after business school to I was a lawyer before, and business school was kind of a reset to my past. I'm a recovering attorney, as I like to say. Not that anything is bad of being an attorney, but I just decided I want to do something that I'll have more passion and love to, and business school was a great opportunity for me just to see what I really want to do and improve my skills in finance and in other areas, and I started the winery back in 2006.
What makes you want to go into the wine business?
I guess passion. There was always something when I was to travel with my family in Europe. There was something about hospitality that I really enjoyed, and there was always a bottle of wine wherever I went at a dinner table. There was always a bottle of wine, and if you look around, I mean, you can be in a coffee shop, you can be in a small bistro, you can be in a fancy restaurant, you can be anywhere, and people get together, they open a bottle of wine, friends, family, lovers, partners, friends, and it's a great way to share something that people love and enjoy. You don't have to be an expert, you don't have to be a sommelier to decide if you like wine or you don't like that bottle of wine. It's really up to you to decide if you like it or not, and I think it's very magical from those tiny little grapes that we bring people together at the end of the day. So it's a beautiful journey from the vineyards, from the farmers, the growers that actually take care of the vineyards, and then to the winemakers that make those delicious wines around the world. At the end of the day, you have restaurateurs and retailers buy the wine and bring them to the people, to the consumers, and we consume them, we drink them, and we usually have a laugh and enjoy ourselves, and I think it's a beautiful circle. It's a lovely journey.
You are the true extraordinary entrepreneur yourself. What was the most difficult challenge that you faced from practice law to operating a wine business?
So as a lawyer, I think you're consulting other people. You tell them what do you think is the best way to do things.
Yes.
But you're an advisor, you're a consultant. And I don't think that wine is different in other businesses in terms of owning a business. Then you started to make your own decisions. The lawyers, the accountants, the advisors can tell you so much, but at the end of the day, it's your decision. So it's any entrepreneur. I think here in the Silicon Valley we call it entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs exist in all over the world, in small villages and in big cities. So it doesn't have to be only here. It's true that here in the Silicon Valley we have a lot of entrepreneurs, especially 99.9% in tech. I guess I'm one of the only ones that is not in tech in the Silicon Valley that is considered an entrepreneur, but it just making your own decisions, making your own mistakes, learning from your mistakes, and a lot of times you're on your own, you're alone. You have a team of people with you, but at the end of the day you are. So this is the most challenging and difficult thing is you are alone. I mean, especially when you wake up in the 2 o'clock in the morning and you're not sure if you made the right decision or if there are, Mother Nature is throwing a lot of things at us. So it's not just dealing with banks and dealing with wholesalers and the buyers who's going to buy the wine, but it's about Mother Nature. If you're going to facing a fire, if you're facing a drought, if there is smoke, there is rain, frost, hail, a lot of different things. Rain in the wrong season. So it's a beautiful. We live in an amazing place. Weather, for the most part, have been pretty good for us in California. But as we all know, in the last 10, 15 years, it's been more challenging than ever in terms of fires. It have been and drought as well. So that's the two things that have been it keeps me up at night, especially during the summer days.
Basically, the wine business is depending on the grapes.
Correct.
No grapes, no wine.
Absolutely.
And we are actually facing drought conditions in the last few years. Would that impact how the wine tastes? It sounds like there's a lot of impact to the wine.
Of course, yeah, of course. Usually when you have drought, the yields are lower. So first of all, if you have a plan that you are planning to make, X amount of wine, and you have a drought, most likely that you're going to make less wine that year. And you never know. It's not like a formula that you base. We're not making a soft drink that 100% that you're going to mix it with water and you're going to have enough wine. It's unfortunately we depends on those on the conditions of Mother Nature. So it is absolutely, it changed the taste profile. The taste profile can be affected as well, obviously. Some would say actually that vines have to survive, and if in tougher conditions you actually make better wine. Some would say that because the vines the roots have to go deeper and survive, and it makes a more concentrated wine. The wine can be have more structure, more interesting in terms of flavors. So some would say that that can happen as well in drought years. But it can be also deadly. It can be vines cannot survive if the heat. If you have a heat wave plus drought conditions, then it's going to be very difficult for the vineyards to produce quality grapes that will be good enough to make wine.
California has a serious fire conditions since 2017.
Yeah.
Would the fire smoke impact the grapes?
Of course. So two things. First of all, the fires usually start, for the most part, started later in the harvest time. So August is usually when we harvest the white wines, and later in the year, September, October, we usually harvest the red wines. So it depends. So white wine usually don't really get affected by fires. First of all, because we harvest them earlier, so they're lucky. That's one. Red wines, obviously, as I mentioned, we harvest them a little bit later in the year. When the fires usually start, it usually happens, even though the things are changing on a year-to-year basis. So it's not like it's going to happen every year. But red wine is definitely more affected by it. There is more skin contact as well with the wine. And the skin is observing all the smoke, and that's what creates that smoky flavor. So it's not a question of like, yes, we're going to have wine with a smoky flavor. No, you cannot make wine like that. So the wine will not taste good. Sometimes it takes time. It's not something that you're going to taste immediately. It's not that you're going to make the wine, and immediately have a notice that smoky flavor. Sometimes it's going to take a year. The wine can be already in the barrel, in the bottle, and only then it will affect it. you're gonna start seeing the hints of smoke in the taste profile. So we send the grapes to the lab, and then they can detect that and know if those grapes can actually have observed already smoke in them, and then you cannot make the wine. So it's not a question of, okay, it's great, we're going to have some smoky flavors, characters to the wine. You can't really make wine that way. I mean, some people will, but for the most part, because they don't have insurance, or they want to take the risk and see what's going to happen. And there are ways today also to take that smoky flavor out of the wine. I don't really recommend that. It's not what we do at our winery. Our winemaker will never allow that. I know that some people will do that. So it's a question of a business decision as well, integrity of your wines, if you want to make wine with those smoky flavors or not.
Is it true that Sonoma County makes more white wine and Napa makes more red wines?
I think overall, Sonoma is making a bit more white wine than in Napa. Napa is a very, I mean, it's very known around the world, but it's a very small part of what the wine that we make here in California in general. I'll start with that. Sonoma is known for Chardonnays and Pinot. It's the climate in Sonoma is very good for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Napa's weather is great for them to make a cab. They're very known for their cabs. And the rest of it just depends. There is so many microclimates in Sonoma, and that's why I love that region. In those microclimates, as long as if you're closer to the coast area, Sonoma coast, this is where you have the wind and the fog and lower temperature, and that fog prevent from the sun to burn the grapes, and so you can make wine you can grow grapes that are more suitable for that weather, such as Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, which are not really great grapes to grow in Napa. And then the other grapes, it just depends on which area in Napa or in Sonoma. So some would argue that you can make the same amount of white wine and red wine in both regions. I think that in Sonoma you can actually make more white wine than red wines.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Some people will say, like, certain years the wine tastes better than other years.
Yeah.
What makes that certain year taste better?
So if you take the fires out of the equation, if you take the drought out of the equation, if you just talk about other things, climate-wise, absolutely. If you have a year that you don't have as much sun, or you had hail, or you had frost, that can absolutely affect the ripeness of the fruit, or even affect the quality of the fruit. If you have hail, obviously that can, in the wrong season, when you already have grapes, that can really damage the fruit quality and can damage the wine quality. And same for heat waves, can really cook the wine. The wine is not ripe yet, but the heat wave can basically burn the grapes. So the grapes are not ripe. They're not ready to be harvested, but the sun is affecting it in such a way they're cooking the wine before. So that's going to really damage the wine quality, the grape quality as well. So it's absolutely, you have years that it's known to, but that's, again, as I mentioned, there's so many microclimates in California, in Sonoma, that it just depends where. When somebody's like, overall, let's say 2010 was a horrible year, it really depends where. I mean, you can have an amazing year in Santa Cruz Mountain, which is not too far from where we live, and then you can have, it can be a really bad vintage for another wine in Napa. So it really depends where the elevation, where it exactly happened, where that climate event happened.
Basically, the wine depends on the different regions.
Absolutely.
Throughout
Yeah.
California
but there are years that you can say, 2000 and, I mean, especially, I mean, we like, people like to say, Bordeaux in 2010 was a bad year, or 15 Tuscany was a great year, and 16 was even better year. So it just really, really depends where around the world. You cannot generalize and say, okay, 2010 was a good year or a bad year. It really depends where, even within, I would say, Bordeaux, the areas that will be more affected and less affected. And of course, same thing goes to other regions around the world. So that's the beautiful thing about the world these days, that it can be, that now we are citizens of the world, and we have access to wine from all over, so we can actually see and we can read and know, check ourselves what's true. We don't have to just to basically believe one person. We can try it ourselves, or have enough resources to check out and understand better what we're drinking.
For the global warming condition and drought condition, there's so many crises throughout the world right now. And I remember I visited the greenhouse. Mm-hmm. They actually put vineyard inside the greenhouse. Yeah. So would that be our feature?
I hope not.
Okay.
I like, the way that with all the issues that we have with Mother Nature, I think I love those, that we have to fight what Mother Nature is offering us and do get the best out of it. Otherwise, you can just make wine in the lab and that's it. I think that's a beautiful thing about nature, that we have to ride alongside it and not try to fight it, and get the best out of it. So, and that's a nice thing about from vintage to vintage. Won't taste exactly the same. You can have your philosophy, you can have your impact on the consistency and style that you would like, but obviously things will otherwise it's just like drinking a soft drink, and it's not the point of making wine. You definitely want to get the best out of Mother Nature and get what is there that it gives us. And with a good winemaker, it's a lot of art as well alongside. There is definitely science behind it as well, but it's like raising kids. There is no one recipe to do it, right? I mean, you just have to adapt and change and find the right what's right for one wine a specific year. It doesn't mean it's going to be the right thing for a different wine in a different year. It will change from one region to another, from one vintage to another, and from winemakers have different philosophy how to make their wines as well. So that can definitely affect the wine.
So you started your first wine in 2006. And how many wines that you made locally, and how many wines are imported from different countries currently?
Yeah, so Cannonball was our my firstborn. We made a Cannonball Cab, and our first account actually was here in Menlo Park at Rager's. And that was the wine that we released we released that wine in 2007 actually. So it was a 2005 vintage, but we released that wine in 2007, and we made 5,000 cases of Cab, and it was sold in 3 months. So we were pretty successful. It's almost 60,000 bottles of wine that we sold pretty fast. So we knew that we were doing something right, and that was the first wine. Then the recession hit back in 2008. It was actually really good timing for us, because our wine, you can find it on the shelf for $15, $16 for a bottle of wine. And a lot of people that are drinking expensive wines, or more expensive than wine for $40, $50, $60, $100 bottle of wine, suddenly realize that cannot open that bottle of wine every night. They need to downgrade their basically spend on wine. That was one thing. And then restaurants as well. Restaurants started to realize that they need wine that is more affordable by the glass, and we were at the right time, at the right price point. So Cannonball Cab was the first one that we kind of did a line extension, and we added a Chardonnay and a Sauvignon Blanc and a Merlot to that line of Cannonball. And all those wines are California appellated. And speaking again about the climate, that's a nice thing about having the flexibility. If you're not just in a very specific wine from a very specific vineyard, you can basically source, if you have fires or hail or drought in a specific area, it means that you can still get wine from a different, you can source your grapes from a different region within California. That's a beautiful thing about California, actually. There's so many different regions that are making, amazing wines. So that's a nice thing about being able to do that. So that's Cannonball. Cannonball is been around now for 16 vintages, 15 vintages, and then after that we have Angels and Cowboys, which is our famous rosé from Grenache. It is a Provence style that we make here in Sonoma. Beautiful, beautiful wine. Also for $15-16 for a bottle of wine. And that wine, super trendy to drink rosé. You were talking about, people are drinking more white wine than red wine. I think a lot of it is got to do with rosé. People really enjoy it. And then the red blend of Angels and Cowboys, which is an Zinfandel blend that we make as well, which is great. Summer wine. A lot of people love Zinfandel. It's kind of our California pride as well. People love to drink Zinfandel. It's great for barbecue. It's great for burgers. It's great for Memorial Day, 4th of July. Just fun to have a barbecue outside, and you can do a picnic and drink that wine. It's super good with meat. So this is kind of our wines. We also have two bubbles that we started to make under Angels and Cowboys as well, a Brut and a Brut Rosé in a champagne method. Mm-hmm. And so this is our local wines that we make ourselves. And then we have a partnership in New Zealand with Astrolabe Wines, which is amazing, delicious Sauvignon Blanc, and they also make Chenin Blanc and Pinot Gris. It is delicious that we bring from them, and they also do Pinot Noir that is outstanding. So that's a partnership that we started back in 2010 years ago. And it's a phenomenal wine. It is getting a lot of awards, a lot of attention from the media. It wasn't available until we brought it to the US 10 years ago. And then the other one that we started 2 years ago is from Twin Vine, and that's from the Jose Maria de Fonseca family, which is a 160 years old winery. And we are only bringing one wine, Vinho Verde. Vinho Verde is a region in Portugal, and it's a white wine. It's delicious, light, beautiful wine, and there is a lot of buzz about wine that are good for you. I wouldn't say that wines that are good for you. It's a question of how do you want to define what is good for you. But it's one that is low in alcohol, low in sugar. It's 85 calories for a glass of wine. Usually, wine will be 120 to 140 calories per glass of wine. This one is almost 40% less, something like that. So it's definitely delicious wine for the summer, very light, very easy to drink, but beautiful flavors and amazing wine. So really enjoy bringing that wine. So that's the other partnership that we have outside of the US, outside of California. But the two main wines that we make here are Cannonball and Angels and Cowboys. This is kind of my they're all part of the family, obviously, but Cannonball and Angels and Cowboys are the two wines that we started with, and that's the one that we make ourselves here.
I love the design of the labels. Oh. Did you do that yourself?
No. So people that are from the Bay Area will say it looks familiar. So Michael Schwab is our graphic designer. He's an iconic graphic designer that was commissioned actually by the Golden Gate National Parks to design all the iconic parks such as Coit Tower and Alcatraz and Golden Gate Bridge and Muir Woods and Christie Fields and a lot of other things. And then he did another work for Amtrak around the country. And we were lucky enough to meet Michael and to work with him. And he is very known for his silhouette style of design. And it's like having a poster, on your label. I mean, this is on your bottle of wine, so it's pretty phenomenal. We have a lot of people asking to get posters of the label just because it's such a unique label. And we didn't have, we don't own the vineyards, we don't own a chateau or a beautiful winery or a cave inside a mountain. So for us, it was natural to have something different than having a vineyard or a chateau on the label. And Cannonball for me, it was just like wine is the kind of the inner child. It doesn't matter how old you are, but wine should be fun, and we are taking the wine too seriously, and we are intimidating a lot of people that want to drink wine, but just like are confused. And a lot of the wine labels look exactly the same, and they're not sure which wine to pick and what to drink, and they will go. It's like getting into a Barnes and Noble store without knowing what you want to read, and you're overwhelmed. And I think the same thing is happening to a lot of people that actually love wine, but they're just overwhelmed. And I don't want to say I was trying to simplify it, but it was kind of a message that wine is fun. You know, those days that we used to, run and dive into the water and shout Cannonball and be free before life became too serious, before we started to think about tuition fees and mortgage and alimony and other problems that people experience in life. And for me, just like let's enjoy life again, and let's be young in spirit again and enjoy. So that's kind of the message of Cannonball. It's pretty intriguing, but super simple. The wine is super, serious the way we make the wine, but in terms of the message of, it's a wine for $15, $16 bottle of wine on the shelf. You go to a restaurant, you should find that wine for $40, $50 bottle of wine. It's very affordable, I would say. And Angels and Cowboys is more mysterious and more unique. It's not a varietal. It's a blend of different grapes together. And this is kind of our trailblazer. This is kind of being more mysterious and more unique and be daring and doing something different. And we did a Zinfandel blend and we did a Rosé blend. And those two wines are our expression of what we think Rosé should taste like. From California, where, as I said, the influence or the inspiration came from Provence, so it's not a white Zinfandel. It is a serious rosé, and same for the red blend. The red blend is super complex, a lot of different. The Zinfandel is the leading varietal in that blend, so you get a lot of lusciousness and beautiful herbs and notes and spices. And every sip you take, you get to taste something different. So I love drinking that wine with red meat or with other things on the grill will go really well with that wine. And the label is kind of this message. It's not intimidating. It's kind of, I think, it's you're very secure in what you want to do, but it's very you think about it. You think about what you see, and it's people remember the name, and people are like thinking, oh, wait a minute, it should be Cowboys and then Angels. Some people will think about George Michael's song. Some people say you're a cowboy and then you die and then you were becoming an angel. I'm like, no, you get it all wrong. I think you can be a living angel. You can just sometimes a cowboy will behave like an angel, and sometimes angel will behave like a cowboy. And I think this is kind of the message, and the inspiration for that came from Mandela in terms of kind of the story behind it, of somebody who had to fight for his rights, for his country, and for his people. And today the inspiration is actually Jose Andreas, which is the founder of Central World Kitchen, which is a phenomenal guy that has been changing the world meal by meal and donated, I want to say, hundreds of millions of meals by now to people in this country and around the world, wherever there is a disaster somewhere, and it doesn't matter if it's by natural causes as an earthquake or a hurricane or something bad as that, or a war somewhere around the world. He will be the first person to basically fly with his team and recruit chefs and people and cooks, and will cook meals for people. He started I think his first thing was in Puerto Rico, and he wrote a book, How to Feed an Island. So I'm saying all that, even though we're talking about wine, because we decided to partner with them, with World Central Kitchen, and basically we are donating from every bottle of wine some of the proceeds that will go to his foundation And he's a true inspiration. He's a guy that will speak his mind.
Yoav, can you tell us that people actually love the white wine and red wine equally?
Yeah, I see actually more trends of people drinking more white than before. I think first of all, I think that white wine is easier for a lot of people to drink. It's served cold. And I think the tannins are not as strong. It's less intimidating. A lot of people think that red wine will get them headaches, and they prefer, or some other allergies and things like that. So, and also the climate. We have a lot of people. I mean, we are experiencing warmer weather than before, and I think that people. I would definitely say, even in our industry, I see more people that love to drink white wine more than red wine. So, and rosé, as I mentioned before, it's something that definitely picked up in the last year in the US, in the last 10 years, and you can see people drinking more. So, if you take the rosé into that equation of white versus red, so I would say yes, I think that people are drinking more white than red wine.
How interesting.
Yeah.
I guess the climate change will actually have an impact on what people like to drink now. Would you tell us what is your favorite region wine in the world?
I don't really have one favorite region, but I love the fact that we can now. There are good wines all over the world. Like, it's not. We make wine, I think, in every state in the U.S. now. So every single state in the U.S. is making wine as well. So it's, and the most known one, and we are obviously spoiled here in the West Coast. Of course, here in Sonoma, Napa, California in general, you have a lot of great wines in Central Coast as well, in Paso, and then Oregon, Washington. But you have you have great wine, Finger Lake in New York, upstate New York, which are making phenomenal wines, great Rieslings and other wines. And I was drinking wine from Georgia the other day, which was great. Georgia, the country, not the state.
Okay.
So there are wines, and the nice thing about, again, this is with all the issues, we didn't even talk about all the logistics issues that we have, all the supply chain that we are experiencing right now, that the bottleneck that started during COVID. But there are amazing wines. I mean, obviously from Turkey and Greece, and you have new countries that are making wine, and it just. So I love to explore. I don't have a specific. The obvious, people tell you, of course, French wine and Italian wine, and which I love. But there are so many amazing wines from Central America, from Mexico. There are great wines that are making wine now that I love to try. So I'm a sucker to give me, let's try something different and something new, do a blind tasting, and you'll be amazed from the quality. I think the quality in the last 10, 15 years have climbed up significantly. People are, you have winemakers that are just going to different parts of the world and are learning about wine, and with all the state-of-the-art equipment that we have today, I think the wine just stepped up to be much better than the wine that we had 30 or 40 years ago. Just in general, if you take about the overall wine in general is much, quality-wise, is much, you have much more wineries. More wineries now making better wine than what we used to have 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Because it's technology?
I think it's the combination of knowledge of people.
Okay.
People are able to travel the world and do young winemakers will go and visit wineries. They will do an internship in South Africa, and then they'll go and do an internship in Australia, and they'll go and do in France or Italy or Spain or Portugal or Turkey or Greece. And there is no doubt that one of the meccas of the world is still Davis to learn about wine. But there are, as I mentioned, there are great regions all over the world. So you wouldn't find me saying I only drink wine from that region, or I love wine just from Marlborough. There are so many different regions in New Zealand that are making phenomenal wines as well. So it's just a question of the day and the time and the year and what the the circumstances are, but I love to explore and just do that. We're a global citizen now. Even if you, in our fingertip, you can go to a retail shop, or you go to an all-over restaurants and find wines from all over, which is also, it's just a really nice thing to do. I know people have to source locally, which is absolutely true, and I believe in that, but if you have the opportunity also to try wines from different regions, that I encourage everyone to do that.
Well, I'm big supporters of source locally.
Yes.
And I know I can pick up your wines in Whole Foods and Draggers.
Yes.
So tell us where else I can pick up your wine.
In a lot of places, because we don't sell we don't make enough wine to sell to everyone. But the wines are available in the Bay Area in a lot of stores. Whole Foods have been phenomenal partners of ours, and Draggers as well over the years, and local restaurants from Vina Nautica to Evia to Bistro Vida in Menlo Park and a lot of other places. So we have a lot of supporters that have been in St. Mike's Alley in Palo Alto. We have people that have been supporting us for many, many years. So it will be wrong of me to, and I already mentioned only 4, and I should have mentioned probably another 10. But from Whole Foods, Bevmo, Piazza, Draggers, as I mentioned before, and the others. I know that I'm going to say, I forgot that name and that name, but the ones are available. If people can go on the website to shareasplash.com and email us at divein@shareasplash.com and find information, and we'll be able to. And we also, if they can't find it in their local stores, we can always ship them the wine as well.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great to know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Yoav. Love to try more of your wine. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.